Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Thoughtful Thursdays. We are so excited that you are here today, and we have a great show for you this morning. And so as Carol says, go and get your coffee or your cold beverage, whichever one you happen to be drinking, and sit tight. Let's chat. And welcome. My name is Barbara Ellison, and I am a transformational life trainer, and I work with people to just make aging so successful. So, and my co-host, of course, is Carol Henderson, from the gal from Texas.
Yes, I am from Texas, and I'm Carol Henderson, and I have Life by Design, and I help you to design your life to be better. Personally, I think the second half of your life should be better than the first half of your life. And I can show you how to do that and teach you different things that will cause that to happen. So I am so excited to bring my new friend, Suguna, like Laguna, but with an S, onto the show. She is a wealth of knowledge. She cares about people. And she comes from a long line of healthcare, science backed, just a wonderful heritage. And so I'm going to bring her on. And so, Suguna, first of all, tell us a little bit about that background.
Sure. Well, I just want to first say thank you both, Carol and Barbara, for having me on this podcast. I love the energy. I'm just tickled by all the good vibes. I think that's half the battle there is staying positive, and it's contagious. So thanks for sharing that. As far as my background, both my parents and my uncle actually were chiropractors. They started in the 70s at a time when it was seen as quackery and suspect. Right. And they were also involved in plant-based diets. They were vegetarians. They got TM meditation trained. They became yoga certified and taught yoga. And so they had a very holistic approach to their life, but also when they helped their clients, it was more than just, manipulating the bones and the skeletons of people's bodies, what you eat, how you exercise, how you move. It's just everything, it's all connected. And we kind of want to live life, or we're taught a little bit more that things are, disjointed or not connected. And there was a time, not long ago, that even in the medical field, they didn't acknowledge that there was a connection between diet and health. So there's been so much progress, and I guess I bring it up because I was connected to that world, and it felt very lonely, bringing, avocado sandwiches, AKA avocado toast, to lunch and being made fun of. And like, now it just kind of come full circle, the kale and the quinoa and all that I suffered. And so my parents are, very proud, like, hey, we were doing this, there's something to it. And, but also, I guess, I don't want people to have to suffer alone. I'm a health and wellness coach, and I don't want that journey of wellness to feel lonely, because you don't heal as quickly when you feel like you're suffering alone, and you can't go out with your friends maybe because you don't feel comfortable eating the foods that they're eating, and maybe there's some social pressure to drink this or do that. And so I just really want to provide as much support as I can to others to make the healing process and getting healthy. It's not punishment. Like some people, in the beginning, you feel like, I can't eat this and that. Like, how can I have any fun? But there are ways to learn to enjoy new foods. And once you start equating certain foods with giving you more energy and feeling light and more mobile in your body, and like alleviating headaches, and once you start making that switch, then it actually is pleasurable to eat the produce over the cookie. And I'm not also gonna say never have a cookie, never cheat. Like, we always schedule in some cheat times and cheat days, because hey, life is short, so you might as well have some chocolate.
Well, and for some people, cheat days are not an option. My daughter-in-law and grandchildren, they don't get cheat days. I mean, on flour or dairy. I mean,
Right.
at none,
Right.
medically none.
Right.
But there have been so many advances in the last 10 years. I mean, Mason's 18 now. And when he was little bitty, his mother was the one that realized he had celiacs and had to educate the doctors on it because his was so severe, even as an infant. Even as an infant, if she ate flour, she would get horribly sick, even though she didn't have a problem with it before she got pregnant. But, and I look back and my mom loved the smell of cigars until she got pregnant with me. And I cannot stand them. I mean, a very, very high dollar, like a $50 cigar, and I'm upwind, I can be around. But most cigars, I can't. I mean, we're talking throw up sick. But, wow. And that's the way she was pregnant. So we've got to realize that, even our babies' bodies are trying to tell us things. And it's gotten easier for them to eat out, for them to go places. There are gluten-free and dairy-free options, but there weren't.
That's right.
18 years ago, there were no options for them. She has had to make everything, take everything for all the little kids' parties, make the cupcakes and the snacks for every event. And people have come way full circle and are starting to, more and more people are eating that way. But I was talking to a friend last night, and he was talking about how in Europe especially, but Cyprus and some of those areas, the food portions are very tiny, but you eat it and you're full because it's so nourishing. We in this country have dumbed down our food, for a lack of a better term, to where that we're eating so much empty fluff or detrimental fluff.
That's
in
right.
Our food.
Artificial or altered.
Yes. Yes.
It's harder to process the additives and the processed foods.
Yeah. And it's very bad, very, very bad for your body. So anyway, so kind of explain a little bit about what you do and how you do it, because I think that's a fascinating aspect of what you do.
Sure. So I'm a board certified health and wellness coach, and we're, as of 5 years ago, we're recognized by the American Medical Association. And
so let me ask a quick question. So you're recognized just in New York or all of the whole country?
National. Yeah.
National. Okay. Just check.
National board certified. Yeah. Thanks for clarifying. Yes. And so although health coaching has been around for many years, it's being newly recognized. And so what a health coach is, it's a little bit similar to a nutritionist or a dietitian in that we do consider and look at people's, what they're eating. But that's not the primary focus. It can be, but, when we talk about nutrition, there's like primary nutrition and secondary nutrition. And primary nutrition is actually in your life, what feeds you, like relationships, your career, your spirituality, creativity. All these things really have an effect on your health and your overall well-being. And, if you're stressed because of work or relationship, it's going to affect your choices around food. You're going to maybe start craving salty, high-fat foods because your body is in fight or flight mode. So to just only address someone's health needs by just being like, okay, you need to cut back on A, B, C, and D. It's like, well, let's get to the root of this craving. Why are you craving French fries after you get home first thing, or, a bag of potato chips? And so when you sort of look at the root of, it's more of a homeopathic approach. And when you look at the root of it, oh, well, at my job, I'm really stressed and, my associate left, so I have to do double the work. And when I get home, I'm just so exhausted and, I just need that fuel. And, body craves salt, because that is like a red flag where your adrenals, might be fatigued. So then, you can look at it from the scientific point of view, but then you can also look at it of like emotionally, well, how can you get support at work? What can you change? Like maybe you have to wait a while till they hire somebody new, but how can you show yourself support so you're not, just flailing and then turning to comfort food? So I think there's been so much shame in the diet industry about making people feel guilty for having these cravings. But when you look at the root cause of why, and there's so many reasons, it takes a while. So is a little bit of, counseling and a little bit of nutrition. We're not therapists. So, when it comes to dealing with issues like deep trauma or eating disorders, I would refer out. But there's a lot of emotions that come up. And unlike in the doctor's office, I'm like really open to talk about them and acknowledge them and connect them to the lifestyle. So,
okay. Well, and that's one of the things we talk about on this show a lot, and on our Monday show. We are made spirit, soul, and body. We are a triune being, and people don't realize that. They think it's separate things, just totally division and no interconnection. But we're so interconnected. Our spirit affects our soul, affects our body affects our spirit, and so when your body's not healthy, none of you is really healthy. When your spirit's not healthy, none of you is healthy. When your soul, your mind, will, and your emotions is not healthy, none of you is healthy. And everything's disconnected, because that's what connects the other two. And so it is very, very, what you do is very important in being able to address the different, and yes, if it's a traumatic thing, go to an expert and get that done. But there's so many things that are locked away that we don't realize.
Yeah. And, I wouldn't just refer someone out completely and be like, I can't work with you anymore. I'd say, hey, work with
the back and forth.
That's right. Like, I love collaborating with other health practitioners because, and I keep saying this over and over, it takes a village to heal a person, because we have all these different perspectives. And I really just love the collaborative approach of healers working together to help a person, but also just the actual collaborative approach of health coaching, because we tend to let the client take the lead in terms of the direction they want to go. And it's okay to speak up if they feel uncomfortable. I don't come in with an agenda of like, this is how I'm going to fix this person. It's more just really trying to uncover, and together we kind of work out. I definitely can bounce ideas back. We can have brainstorming sessions, but ultimately when I want to encourage the client to come up with their own solutions to their own problems, and they're going to be much more likely to follow through with that. Yes. It's actually a process that I got trained in. It's called motivational interviewing, and it's been used in therapy, especially in rehab. But it's in the therapy world. It's a process of questioning and reflecting, so people can get, more deeper into what it is they really know about themselves, because I think people can just be sort of on the automatic, and they're so used to in the healthcare system just showing up and someone telling you this is how it is and this is how you should do it. And so initially some people they're a little thrown off because they're like, just give me a magic pill, give me
instant gratification.
Yeah, they're like, give me a regimen and I'll do it. But they're not really going to stick to it. And it just may not work for their personal lifestyle and their preferences. So we really try and get to the bottom of like, how can we make this work for you? If they come to me and want to lower their blood pressure, and we know certain dietary changes they can do, but there might be a few tweaks and, details that they come up with that would make them feel more motivated, or that they would like to do. Or like, if we talk about eating prebiotic foods, like not everybody likes sauerkraut. So I'm not going to force somebody to be like, you have to eat sauerkraut. It's like, well, here are these choices. What can we make work? And I feel like the more customized the experience is, and the more it's a co-creation experience, there's more success and ownership.
Well, they'll be more vested, in it if for lack of a better term, think it's their own idea.
Exactly.
But the US population is the only country around the world that does not eat a fermented item with their meals.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in Asia, they have kimchi and stuff like that. Over in Europe, they have sauerkraut. And,
Mm-hmm.
even a friend I knew, well, it was a friend of my mom's, she grew up with pickles on the table.
That's
Just,
right.
and had that on the table to eat with most meals.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not something we do here.
Mm-hmm.
And there is so much fermented food. I mean, yes, you have to watch like your yogurts, because most of those are garbage in the grocery store now too. But
There are good yogurts out there.
there are good ones, definitely.
Yeah.
But I'm saying you have to be careful not to have one that's just pure sugar and chemicals.
That's right. 100%. Yeah. I mean, I think what's really confusing too is that not all products are the same. And so it's like, I was recommending cashew milk to a client recently, and they found a different one that had fillers in it, like carrageenan and I don't know, xanthan gum or something. And it was just like, well, no, it's not going to be the same. Like, and it's very confusing, because I think there's just, nobody feels like they have time to read through all the ingredients, and then what are all these ingredients? And you can't just say, go buy some plain yogurt, because plain yogurt might also have some like locust bean gum in it, or additives, or sugar. A lot of people, that's a tricky one. And sugar comes in like 99 different names. And right. It's confusing. It sounds like dextrose. Oh, that sounds like okay. Or Florida crystals. What the heck is that? But who cares? It's not sugar, but yes, it is. So I think there is a level of education that happens as well. In a coaching session, I try and make it 80% about the client, and then 20% education. And also I always ask permission first. I don't just like, dump a bunch of facts on them. I definitely try and build up a curiosity, and in between our sessions, they can email me or text me, and I'm super nerdy, and I'm always reading, and I have articles and information. I love sharing information with people, but I think there's a heavy lift about educating people about food. I think a lot of us don't understand, and the food options that are out there are very confusing. Like, if you go to Whole Foods, you might think you're eating healthy, but if you're eating these processed cookies and chips and salsas and whatnot, they're just as unhealthy as if you were to go to a regular grocery store, and you're paying like 3 times as much. So
well, exactly. And it takes a while to reset your taste buds.
Exactly.
And that's one of the things that Barbara and I do, is we help people to go and do that, and do. In fact, we're in the middle of a reboot challenge with a group of people, where you go in and reboot, and literally by the end of that time, your desires have changed. Yes. Your body is reshaped, and it's working at a higher level because of some of the things that we teach. And so, it's a process, and not everybody, even though they need it, not everybody is willing to have it. It's a difference between want and need. They want to have the skinny model body, but they need the nutrition.
Yeah, well, we don't know if the skinny model body is necessarily healthy anyway. So
yes, I mean, I had a modeling agency, and I had a girl. Her name was Jackie. She's tall, thin, beautiful, and she worked in my office a lot. And she would come. Her mother kind of used it as an after-school program for her. She would come intern for me. And one day, every day she would come in with mashed potatoes and gravy from Colonel Sanders. Mm-hmm. And one day I looked at her, I said, Jackie, you are the fattest skinny girl I've ever met. And I never talked that way to my girls, because I built them up from the inside and made them want to be healthy. But anyway, she goes, what? I said, do you realize what you're eating? I mean, and so we sat down and talked about it. She goes, that is pretty bad.
Oh, yeah. And, it's like, we just have to unlearn and relearn. There's just like a big
Yes.
learning curve ahead of us. And, I'm happy to participate in that. And, what you're talking about, with your model, there is the term FOI, fat on the inside.
Mhm.
So the visceral fat is actually, not necessarily visible, and that's
Right.
around organs, and that is the most dangerous fat. So yeah, someone could be looking like a model, and if they're not eating healthy and taking care, if they're eating a lot of processed foods, and
yeah.
then that could definitely be an issue. So yeah, it's very complex, and I think with health coaching, what's really great is that doctors have a wealth of information and they can diagnose and prescribe, but the healthcare model system now is they can only spend a few minutes with each patient, and the health coaching model, spends a minimum of half an hour to an hour plus communication in between. And so you really have time to peel back the layers, to face the resistance. There's, like you're saying, people have to learn, retrain their taste buds. And some of that is working at the chemical physiological level. They're even proving on a cellular level that the more fat cells you have, it craves fat and sugar. And so, you're really kind of, it's not even your fault. It's just not your fault. Like, I really try and remove the shame and stigma around like where people are. And if they're having these cravings, it really like boils down to so many things that are not necessarily in their radar at the moment. And if your cells are telling you to do this, like, that is a biological function. And like you say, just with time of relearning, like finding pleasure in things that are healthy and then associating them with how you feel. Like, there's that instant pleasure, like sugar, they say registers pleasure in your brain faster than cocaine. It's almost instantaneous.
Right.
And
well,
so
it basically is the same as cocaine. And if it were to try to be, I won't get on my soapbox, but it's really no different. Okay.
It's very similar.
It's addictive. Yeah, it's addictive.
Yeah.
It's, when you get off of it, and so many people that have gotten off of heroin and cocaine and other hard drugs, they go to sugar and they get off of it, and they start substituting the sugar because it has the same attributes.
Yeah, I mean, it gives you a dopamine, like it stimulates the dopamine receptors, but what is different is that it literally, the science behind it, they found that it triggers it almost immediately, whereas cocaine, there's a few seconds lapse time. So so children, I had a client that sort of attributed some of their addictive behavior to their sugar intake, excessive sugar intake as a child, that they kind of felt that they developed, some of these
oh yeah, I don't doubt that. Yeah,
yeah,
I don't doubt that at all.
Yeah, so it's very complex. It's like an onion that you keep peeling back. But I would say that people, through like positive psychology, and one of my instructors, when I was studying for the board, talked about flipping the pancake. So there's any statement that you can make or any frame of mind you can be in, and then we try and figure out how to flip that pancake. Like, some clients have really serious chronic diseases or maybe even genetic disorders that they may never be able to cure. So this is something they have to live with. And they may feel like their body is betraying them, and so that's a pretty heavy feeling. And so that's something I'll sit with and really like honor that. But then we try and think about what is working in your body. Like, so we'll just like do a little meditation and like a body scan and just breathing. And then my client was like, oh, I realized that my lungs are working and I can breathe. And then we talked about their heart beating, and they don't even need to think about this. Like their body does love them and does want them. Our bodies are programmed for survival. These amazing design, human design is incredible.
And they're made to heal. If you give them the right body, the right building blocks, they'll heal.
To a degree. I mean, there are certain things that maybe they will not overcome, but they, there's different ways to be involved in your health and healing. And there's ways to appreciate what you do have that's healthy. So, just even me, and I consider myself very healthy. If I'm having a stressful day and I take a moment to just breathe, it is kind of a miracle. Breath is the miracle of life. If we don't have breath, we don't have life. So if I just take a few minutes to sit and breathe and just really marvel in that, it really can change my mindset and flip my pancake. If I'm having a hard day and everything's going wrong, I'm like, wow, I'm actually breathing. And this is this function that's like automatic, but then I can also have control of it. It's like, it's so amazing. And it feels so like beautiful just to really focus on the breath and the energy that you get from really taking the air in around you. So just the little things like that, really trying to get ourselves in a positive mindset can go a long way when we're trying to make these changes as well.
Exactly. So Barbara, I've been asking all the questions. Do you have any questions?
No, not questions so much, just as an observation, just listening. I'm just so grateful that finally the science of this has caught up to the things that, like, I've been in the wellness space for 30 years, but finally they now have it. We've already talked about it, the science of how your brain works, the science of what sugar does, the science behind why our body ages, the science, and we can now access that. And because so many people will just, the doctor has all the science. Yeah, well, no, they don't. There's new science out there. And so that's why when you can get more into the holistic, our bodies know how to heal itself. Like today, I was talking to a gal that she's so excited. She's a nurse. And we were talking about the role of collagen. And she went, oh, wow, of just what they have realized that collagen does in our bodies.
Well, and the whole thing about the size of collagen and the Dalton score, which has to do with the size and whether, because if a watermelon won't go through the eye of a needle, but a sesame seed would, a fairly large sesame seed would. And so a lot of the collagen on the market is the size of a watermelon. And you can bring it down and get it into the size of a sesame seed. And that is rather new science. It's actually from 2020, but it was not implemented on the size of the collagen. And that is huge. That is absolutely huge. And I can see a difference in different collagens I've taken in the past, and even great collagens. And then this new one that is, it came out in January, and I got to be part of the tests before it came out. So, that really, I got a chance to try it and absolutely love it, and can see a major difference both for myself and my husband in our health and in how we feel, just because every bit of it's getting utilized by our bodies instead of just going on down around the way and down to the ocean.
But that's one of the things Susan and I talked about too. It's that it's not only the size of the collagen, like of the collagen peptide, it's the therapeutic dose. Yes. And so many companies out there are putting in, oh yeah, we're a collagen product, and it doesn't have the therapeutic dose in it.
Right. The clinical dose.
The clinical dosage.
Yeah, that's something Suguna could speak to, is, the difference between just having a little molecule of something or a full clinical dose in it.
Maybe. I mean, it just really depends on what the product is. as a health and wellness coach, my scope of practice is I can speak to the quality of products if I know about that.
Right.
If someone asks me, if they're curious to try something, I could, say, well, check with your doctor, but here are some brands that might be better quality. And it sounds like when you're talking about the particle size, I think one scientific term is bioavailability.
Bioavailability.
There's a lot of products that are difficult, and like for some people like myself, I do much better with like liquid herbs or liquid supplements because my body is able to absorb it better. If I take it in the pill form, I may or may not process it as well. So there's there's all these different nuances about it. I do really like working with chiropractors or acupuncturists or functional medicine doctors to, where we can, safely get people on or off, even vitamins and herbs can interact with if you're having to take other medications, or sometimes different herbs in vitamin and vitamins can interact. And so we do want to be careful when we're as a health and wellness coach, I want to be careful in recommending things, but definitely once I know about a brand and its efficacy, I can speak to its quality and, the quantity. Definitely there are medical doses that you're right. They're therapeutical doses. Like people say like, oh, eat this nut and it helps you with, eat Brazil nuts. It helps with depression. Well, how much Brazil nuts do you really need to eat to get the therapeutic dose? There's a few Brazil nuts and then there's like how much you need. So, there's so much nuance behind that. And of course there's, as long as you're not allergic to nuts, a handful of them, every day probably won't hurt you at all, and they have nutrients, but will they cure depression? Like, I don't know. I can't guarantee that.
Exactly.
There's so much nuance. And there's, the world is flooded right now with just so many magic tricks and magic this and that fixes. And, there is also the placebo effect, which they're finding actually is incredibly strong. And so sometimes I'm like, hey, if it makes you feel great, like, and it's not hurting you, then, why not? So
ice cream every day might not be a good placebo.
Well, I mean, we can split hairs over that, because there are some people who, I don't know, remember the comedian George Burns? He lived to like 90 something and smoked cigars every day. So there's something to the happiness factor. And, the Blue Zones diet, they talk a lot about community and, a very holistic way of being that goes beyond just focusing on diet and exercise. So your community emotional support. And I mean, there are the lucky few of us who can eat ice cream every day, and our cholesterol and blood levels are okay, but we don't recommend that in general.
That's what I'm saying. It's just because it's something you can do, it may not be something you want to do.
Absolutely. I guess I was talking more about therapeutic things. But
so tell us, how do people get a hold of you?
Sure. So my website,
I take it they call you up and book an appointment, or
yes.
Okay, so let's go through that process.
Sure. I have a website, and it's my first and last name, SugunaLarenzo.com. SugunaLorenzo.com. You could also just put me in Google, and I'm on a few different sites. So you can just, message me on LinkedIn if that's where you are, or Instagram, Facebook. I'm a Lineable, where I met you, Carol. It was such a good fortune to meet you there. But any of those platforms, just Suguna Larenzo is my name. It's unusual, but
but it's memorable. It's memorable.
So. Yeah, it's like Laguna, but Suguna.
Yes. And that's how I remember to say it properly. So anyway, it has been great to have you on today. I know that you've brought so much value to our people. And guys, put it in the chat, questions, thoughts, and because the three of us can see it, one of us will answer it. Definitely, if you have any questions, doctors can't do everything. They don't have the time. They no longer have the ability to keep up with the drug interactions and stuff. And I know that from my husband. And, I would bring home and start researching that and be go, warning, warning, warning. And this is something they had already prescribed for him. So there were a lot of prescriptions I never got filled for that reason. So Barbara, do you have any last minute thoughts?
No, just, you are responsible for your own health, whatever path that takes you on. And, but sometimes it's hard oh yeah, what should I do? Well, that's where you reach out.
Yes.
And just ask the questions. And if you're not getting satisfaction from your medical profession, you might want to look at some alternatives.
Yes.
And that's up to you. So, yeah.
So yes, and Barbara's favorite saying is, you don't know what you don't know. And that's true of doctors too. They're not end all be all.
They're not infallible.
Yeah.
And that's how I came into the wellness space. I finally looked at my doctor and I had so many issues. I said, there's got to be a better way. And I'm going to find it. And that's when I started researching alternatives. And I'm so grateful that I did. It has been a wonderful ride.
So anyway, go ahead.
Oh, no, I think Barbara hits the key to healing is that you really do need to take it in your own hands. And, doctors and health professionals can help you along the way, but really getting healthy at the end of the day is really up to you. So I think that.
Amen.
Amen.
So for Thoughtful Thursdays, y'all go and think about this, reach out, give us your questions, and share with your friends. We will see you again next week.
Have a good one.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.